It takes a lot for a cheapie to really truly impress me. You know, I have been through it, guys. I have purchased, blind bought by the way, so many cheap fragrances because I understand that there is a big appeal for that. There's a lot of people that don't want to bother with them, and there's a reason why that is, and I'll talk about that briefly. And mainly, I guess I'll just talk about it right now because a lot of cheap fragrances suck. And you get down this rabbit hole, and if you buy 5 cheap fragrances that ended up being terrible, you could have put that money into one good fragrance, one really good fragrance. So in a way, it can actually kind of be an issue. It can be addicting. You're going down this rabbit hole. Maybe this cheapie will be good. Maybe this. You think you're saving money, but you're really not. I've had so many cheap fragrances that I blind bought that have turned out horribly, and I don't even talk about just because I don't want to, waste time talking about these cheap scents that are terrible if I can instead talk about something that is good, that you guys would actually want to purchase. But trust me, I've been through it. I've got so many that I haven't touched and worn and stuff that I've thrown away. So this is a situation where I wasn't expecting this to be that good. I was going into it actually already disappointed, even though it wasn't that much money. I'm like, yeah, this probably isn't going to be that good, but I got to at least try it. Antonio Banderas, the icon. This is the Eau de Toilette. The new Eau de Parfum is out, depending on when this comes out. Just kicked a bunch of new bottles. Depending on when this comes out, you might have already seen my video on the new EDP. But regardless, I wanted to cover this Eau de Toilette as well in a review here because of, again, mainly the price. 100 ml, $19 or $20. 100 ml tester that I do believe still comes with a cap, $14. When you get into that price point, especially $15 and under, it is a complete crapshoot. Most of the time, for probably every, every 5 fragrances that you buy, 4 of them are going to be terrible in that price range. So the fact that this one here is really good, and I'll show you that here in a second, it's impressive. So we will take a look at that real quick, that Atomizer. I'm going to get close up here to this microphone. Let me be quiet. Pressurized. And it makes that click. I sprayed it a few times, so it didn't do that anymore. But if you let it sit, you get that satisfying click and that huge burst of scent. Even the Atomizer is amazing for $14. Cap does click into place. Presentation looks nice. Let's run through this one, and we're going to start off with the scent. So immediately when you first spray this one on, it's very familiar to you, right? It's going to be familiar to basically everybody. It's got that blue fragrance deal going on. Now, I know. Don't go away just yet. Or actually, maybe if you don't like blue fragrances, yeah, click off. But if you do have an interest in them and you have an open mind, stick around, because initially I was like, oh, this is way too similar. This sucks. I have other blue fragrances. But the more I've been testing it, the more I've realized, like, this actually has some value. Mainly that it is kind of a mixture of them, but it leans more so in this Dylan Blue direction because it has some more depth going on, like almost like a patchouli smokiness. There's oak moss in here. There isn't patchouli listed, but that's kind of what I get. You get a good amount of pepper up top when you first spray it on, a little bit of a grapefruit opening. But what it does is just goes more in a slightly mature direction than most typical blue fragrances, right? So when this gets compared to Sauvage, yeah, it's got similarities, but Sauvage, the EDT version, is very playful and nothing really mature about it. Not that that's bad, I'm just, saying. But this one does have a little bit more of a refined, polished type of smell to it, which I do respect. So we'll take a look at the note breakdown here. We have grapefruit and black pepper up top. We have sage and lavender in the mid, which does make sense. It's very aromatic in the mid. And then in the base, we have sandalwood and oak moss. So just really pretty standard. You've got woods, you have aromatics, you have citrus, and a supporting spicy note, right? When you take a look at that note breakdown by itself, it looks super generic, but it also kind of goes above and beyond that. Like I had mentioned, I get a little bit of a smokiness out of it sometimes, a little bit of a patchouli type of smell. I do think it's easy to look at this and write it off, especially when you see that it's $14. You think it's probably terrible, but it's surprisingly not. So yeah, it does have that blue thing going on. But what I like about it, again, is the fact that it's able to kind of establish its own style of blue fragrance here. focusing on some more of the spiciness and that sort of thing. So I've always found that this is just super pleasant to wear. I also like how it smells on my skin. So as I've been spraying all willy-nilly here up in the air, that's great and all. It smells nice in the air, and I'm completely overwhelmed by it by now. It's strong. But when you actually get this on your skin and you wear it, it opens up. You get more of the aromatics. You get more of each of the layers. So that's another thing. Even though it's cheap, this actually has somewhat of a dimension to it. Like, you pick up on some of the top, but then you keep smelling and you can get past that, and then you get into some of the mid. You keep smelling, you get into the base. It's not completely flat, it's not completely linear. This has layers, it has depth, and it does change throughout the wearing. So that's also pretty admirable. Much more mature than Sauvage and more mature than some of the others. Now, it's not like, Dior Eau Sauvage or something, and again, I'm talking Eau Sauvage, which is a super citrus aromatic, classic, mature gentleman scent that a lot of people probably would say would smell like an old man. It's not like that. It's still very much blue, but in comparison to a lot of the main ones, again, it goes a little bit more in the mature direction, which I like. Heavy on the oak moss in this one here. You get it off the top, actually. You can smell it kind of sitting there. And as you get further and further into the dry down, more oak moss coming through, kind of giving it just that cologne-y, masculine smell, right? It's used in a ton of stuff. You get a good dose of it here. So let's go and talk about performance here on this one. Longevity on my skin has been around the 7-hour mark for this Eau de Toilette. $15, $14, $20 scent, whichever configuration you get. That's impressive to me. Really is. I wasn't expecting it to be even that good, Going into it, I was like, it might be a 5-hour scent, something 4-hour, But 7 on average has been very, very good. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes it'll fall short, but again, on average, about 7 hours. Now, the sillage I've also found to be pretty impressive as well. It's one of those deals where if you're doing like what I'm doing and spraying it up in the air, you'll find that you smell it in the air for a long time. So it does have that hanging power. Same with when you're wearing it. You walk into a room and then someone else walks in behind you after you've been out of the room for a while. They can still pick up on it. So it does hang in the air. Now, not as much as like a parfum or something would, but for an EDT, it has decent hang time. And if you hit yourself with enough sprays, you'll get really good projection. If you go with a more moderate spray routine, 3 or 4, something like that, it's not going to be a beast mode projector. It'll be a little bit more personal bubble style, which I think is actually okay. You don't want it to be too strong. Well, maybe you do, and if you do, then you could spray heavier. But if you want something that's work friendly, school friendly, this is the perfect scent for that. The scent profile itself is not going to offend people, and the performance is not too obnoxious either. It's a nice balance. Now, when you stack this up to some of the big blue fragrances, yeah, it's not going to perform as good as the overwhelming majority of those. But again, the price difference here is very significant. So that's something to keep in mind. And impressively enough, the quality isn't terrible. It's not a super high quality scent, but what's interesting is Dior Sauvage retails for $100. Even at discounters, you're still paying $100 or whatever it is for it. And that is called synthetic and low quality all the time. And it's a Dior fragrance, right? They've produced Dior Homme Intense, Parfum, just the original, all of the stuff which is amazing quality. But that ambroxan and that sharpness and that pepper and ambroxan and everything going on in the bergamot, going on in Sauvage, labels it as a synthetic screechy scent. And sure, it is very strong and spicy off the opening, and it is using a lot of synthetics. So, this one really doesn't have to try too hard to be labeled high quality, and it's not high quality, but it also isn't trash quality either. At this price point, I have smelled so much worse. There's been fragrances in this price point, even from this brand, where when you spray it on the first time, you get nothing but alcohol blast, perfumer's alcohol smell for a while until it finally dissipates, and then you start smelling some of the actual scent. Not with this one at all. Like Antonio Banderas' Blue Seduction for him, I think is a pretty good example of just pure alcohol when you first spray it on. This one, none at all. So that's impressive. So I think they stepped up their game with this one. I'm excited to see more of the flankers going forward. Like I said, EDP is out. Can already get it for 20 bucks. Maybe the review, we've already seen it yet, maybe not. So stay tuned for that if it hasn't been out. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for me. Antonio Banderas, the Icon Eau de Toilette. I'll link it down below for you so you can get that deal that I was talking about. Impressive stuff for the price. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.